In 1955, a 4,500-pound luxury coupe rolled out of a Chrysler showroom with leather seats, a chrome grille, and a price tag that would buy two ordinary Fords. It was heavy. It was expensive. It was aimed at wealthy men who wanted to arrive somewhere in style. And it did something that no American car sold to the public had ever done before. It made 300 horsepower. At a time when a new Chevrolet or Ford was lucky to make 190. It won a national racing championship in its very first year. And within 12 months, it had forced American police to invent an entirely new kind of car, because suddenly, for the first time, anyone with enough money could buy a machine the police simply could not catch. This is the story of how a rich man's luxury coupe accidentally created the modern police pursuit car. To understand it, you have to go back to a moment when the fastest thing on the American road was about to change forever, and nobody in law enforcement was ready for it. Picture the American road in early 1955. The interstate highway system was still a year away from being signed into law, but the country was already car crazy, and Detroit was selling more automobiles than ever. Yet under all those long hoods, the engines were surprisingly tame. The most powerful thing Ford offered was a 292 cubic inch V8, making 193 horsepower. Chevrolet's brand new small block, the engine that would become a legend, made about 195. Fast for the day. But nothing on a dealer's lot broke 200 horsepower. That was the ceiling. Everyone accepted it. A family sedan was a family sedan. A luxury car was heavy and smooth and slow, and if you wanted real speed, you built a hot rod in your garage or bought a small European sports car that cost a fortune. The idea that you could walk into a showroom and drive out in a full-size American car that would embarrass a sports car, that just wasn't a thing that existed, until one company decided to build exactly that, almost as an afterthought. That company was Chrysler, and the car was the 1955 Chrysler C-300. On paper, it made no sense. The C-300 was almost a parts bin creation, 3 cars welded into one. Chrysler took the body of its upscale New Yorker, borrowed the rear quarter trim from the mid-range Windsor, and bolted on the massive egg crate grille from its top-shelf Imperial luxury line. Then, under the hood, it stuffed the most powerful engine in America, the 331 cubic inch FirePower Hemi 5.8, fed by 2 4-barrel carburetors. The result was 300 horsepower, a number so significant that Chrysler simply named the car after it. The 300 in C-300 wasn't a model code or a series number. It was the horsepower. The company was that proud of it. And it was rare. This wasn't a mass-market car. Chrysler built just 1,725 of them for 1955. It was expensive, exclusive, and aimed squarely at wealthy buyers who wanted the fastest thing on the road and could afford to pay for it. And it earned the bragging rights. This was the first American production car to reach 300 horsepower, and the gap to everything else was almost embarrassing. It made roughly 50% more power than the flagship Chevrolet Corvette or the Ford Thunderbird, the supposed performance cars of 1955. A heavy luxury coupe was humiliating the sports cars. 0 to 60 came in about 9 seconds, which doesn't sound like much today, but it was a full 2 seconds quicker than anything else you could buy that year, an enormous margin. Then there was the top speed. On the sand at Daytona Beach, in the Flying Mile speed trials, a 1955 Chrysler 300 was clocked at 130 miles an hour. 130. In a 2.25-ton luxury car with a bench seat and a radio. There was simply nothing else on the American market that could live with it. Not a sports car, not a hot rod, nothing you could buy with a warranty and a payment plan. But the showroom numbers were only half the story, because Chrysler did not just build the C-300 to sell to wealthy customers, they built it to win races. And in 1955, it did not just win, it dominated in a way that has rarely been seen before or since. The man behind that domination was Carl Kiekhaefer, a Wisconsin outboard motor magnate who became NASCAR's first true professional team owner. While his rivals still drove their race cars to the track, Kiekhaefer hauled his gleaming white Chrysler 300s in on trucks, ran a disciplined multi-car team, and spared no expense. Behind the wheel of one of those Chryslers, a driver named Tim Flock had the greatest season of his life. He won 18 races that year and took the national championship, a single-season win record that would stand for 12 years, until Richard Petty finally broke it in 1967. Think about what that meant to the public watching. Every Sunday, this same car, the one you could theoretically buy at a Chrysler dealer, was destroying the competition on the racetrack. It blurred a line that had always been clear. The race car and the street car were suddenly nearly the same thing. And that idea that a big American production car could be a genuine high-performance machine was about to change everything, including the balance of power between the people who broke the law and the people who chased them. Chrysler had fired the first shot, and Detroit could not ignore it. When one company proves that a 300-horsepower street car sells and wins championships doing it, every other company has to answer. And so, the horsepower war began. Ford and General Motors, embarrassed on the street and on the track, poured money into bigger, more powerful V8 engines of their own. Within just a couple of years, the 200-horsepower ceiling that everyone had accepted was a memory. The numbers started climbing, and they wouldn't stop for 15 years. Chrysler itself kept escalating. The very next year, 1956, brought the 300B, and its version of the Hemi now made 355, then up to 375 horsepower. Each letter series car that followed pushed the figure higher. The whole industry was now locked in a race to build the most powerful cars it possibly could, and they were selling those cars to anyone who walked in with the money. That was wonderful news for speed-hungry customers. It was a serious, dawning problem for one group of people in particular. The police. To understand why, you have to remember what a police car actually was in the early 1950s. It was not a special vehicle. There was no such thing, for most departments, as a purpose-built pursuit car. A police department bought ordinary civilian sedans, the same Fords and Chevrolets and Plymouths anyone could buy, and then modified them in-house. They'd bolt on a spotlight, install a two-way radio, maybe stiffen the springs, paint a star on the door, and send it out. The car underneath was fundamentally the same machine a grocer drove to work. That system worked fine as long as everybody was driving the same tame 150-horsepower sedans. The crook and the cop were evenly matched because they were, quite literally, in the same car. But the C-300 and the horsepower war it started shattered that balance. All at once, a bootlegger, a bank robber, or just a reckless kid with money could buy a factory car that would do 130 miles an hour straight off the showroom floor and outrun any modified sedan a police department was running. This wasn't a brand new kind of problem. It was the oldest problem in the history of American law enforcement on wheels. It was the same gap the Prohibition-era moonshine runners had opened up decades earlier, when their souped-up Fords left revenue agents eating dust. But the horsepower war made it worse in a fundamental way. The moonshiners had to build their fast cars by hand, one at a time, in secret. Now Detroit was building them by the thousands, on the assembly line, and selling them openly to the public. The speed advantage had gone industrial. And so, for the first time, police departments faced a question they'd never had to seriously ask before. If the criminals were buying factory-built speed, then a spotlight and a stiffer spring bolted onto a grocery getter simply wasn't going to cut it anymore. They needed a real answer, a car engineered from the ground up to chase down the very machines Detroit was now selling. They needed a factory-built pursuit car. And in 1956, for the very first time from Chrysler, they got one. Here is the part of the story that almost nobody tells. The same company that started the horsepower war, the company whose luxury coupe had just handed everyone access to a 130-mile-per-hour car, was also the company that armed the police to fight back. In 1956, Chrysler introduced its first official factory police package. Not a dealer add-on, not a department garage job. A genuine, engineered at the factory pursuit vehicle, built on the Dodge Coronet. Now, an honest note here, because this channel cares about getting it right. This was not the first factory police car in all of American history. Ford had offered a police package back in 1950, and we've told that story. What made Chrysler's 1956 effort matter was that it was the first serious, comprehensive pursuit package from the company that was about to dominate police work for the next 30 years. And it was built using the exact performance lessons the C-300 had just taught them. And it was a real machine. The heart of it was a 315 cubic inch red Ram Hemi V8, a smaller cousin of the engine that made the C-300 famous, breathing through a 4-barrel carburetor. But the engine was only the beginning. Chrysler built these cars to survive police work in a way a civilian car never had to. They got heavy-duty suspension with anti-sway bars at both ends. They got reinforced bodies, where a normal car might have 3 spot welds holding a seam together. The police cars got as many as 9. They got big 11-inch brakes, a high-output electrical system to run the radio and siren, and faster steering. For the departments that wanted genuine speed, Chrysler offered even more. The D500 performance option, with a larger Hemi and NASCAR-derived power, pushing output well past what any ordinary sedan could touch. This was the whole point. The company took the racing and high-performance knowledge it had proven with the C-300 and the letter cars, and it channeled that knowledge directly into a car with a spotlight and a star on the door. The pursuit car had finally caught up to the getaway car, because the same company built both. And police departments noticed immediately. In California, the state ran a head-to-head comparison, buying a fleet of Dodge Pursuits alongside a fleet of Pontiacs to see which held up better in real patrol work. According to accounts of the time, it wasn't close. The Dodges so thoroughly outperformed the competition that the state came back and ordered hundreds more. That early California enthusiasm for Mopar pursuit cars would harden into a loyalty that lasted decades, the same loyalty that would later put the legendary 1969 Polara, the fastest police car of its era, into California Highway Patrol service. California wasn't alone. The Missouri Highway Patrol started buying Chrysler products in this era and stayed loyal to the brand right up until 1989, more than 30 years. State after state, department after department, discovered the same thing California had, and it built into something staggering. By 1968, Chrysler was the biggest seller of police cars in all of North America, holding something like 85% of the market. A dominance that traces directly back to this moment, to the first real pursuit package, built on the lessons of a luxury coupe. So step back and look at the whole strange shape of this story. The Chrysler C-300 was never, itself, a police car. Not even close. It was a rich man's road burner, a luxury coupe built for wealthy speed enthusiasts, and only a few thousand were ever made. If you had suggested to a 1955 Chrysler executive that this elegant, expensive machine had anything to do with law enforcement, he'd have laughed. And yet, it had everything to do with it. By proving that a big, heavy American car could carry a genuine race-bred engine and dominate at 130 miles an hour, the C-300 rewrote the rules of what a car could be. It kicked off the horsepower war that put that kind of speed into the hands of the public, including the lawbreakers. And then, the very same engineering philosophy, the Hemi power and the heavy-duty everything, flowed straight into the police pursuit car that had to chase them down. One car, born for the country club, ended up writing the recipe for the car that patrolled the highway. That's the thread most people miss when they talk about the C-300. They remember it, if they remember it at all, as a footnote in muscle car history. Is it the first muscle car, or isn't it? An argument enthusiasts will happily have all day. But its real legacy might be on the other side of the badge entirely. It forced the American police car to grow up. Before 1955, a cop car was a modified sedan. After 1955, it had to become something engineered, something purpose-built, something fast enough to matter. The luxury coupe made the pursuit car necessary. And that lineage never really ended. Draw the line forward, from the 1956 Dodge Pursuit to the fearsome 1969 Polara, to the diplomats and the Grand Furies of the 1980s, all the way to the Dodge Charger Pursuit that patrols American highways today, the last domestic police sedan still standing. Every one of them is a descendant of that moment when Chrysler decided a big sedan deserved a race engine. The bloodline of the modern cop car runs straight back through 60 years to a luxury coupe that nobody in law enforcement asked for. The 1955 Chrysler C-300 is a rare and valuable collector's car today, prized by the handful of enthusiasts who know what it was. But its fingerprints are on something far bigger than any auction result. It started the horsepower war. It forced the police to stop bolting spotlights onto grocery cars and start ordering real pursuit machines. And it lit the fuse on a Mopar police dynasty that would rule American roads for a generation. So the next time a Dodge Charger Pursuit slides into your mirror with its lights coming on, remember where that car truly comes from. Not from a police garage, not from a government committee, but from a beautiful, absurd 300 horsepower luxury coupe that, in 1955, simply nobody could catch. This has been Badges and Chrome, the channel that covers the police car's history almost forgot. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.